So let's talk about the opportunity in federal government construction. If you're in the construction industry, you are one of a million contractors across the United States. Whether you're a home builder or a drywall guy or a framing guy, concrete guy, electrician, HVAC, you're just one of the million contractors across the United States going after $600 billion worth of work a year, and these are estimates. So let me throw this up on my whiteboard. So you got a million contractors going after $600 billion worth of work. Now, this is, changes all the time. There's going to be 15 new companies tomorrow. There's going to be 100 less electrical companies tomorrow. Companies are constantly going in and out of business. But this is the generalized accepted numbers across the United States. But on the federal side, I don't have to estimate. I can tell you what the numbers are because they're public information. In other words, if you go to SAM.gov, this is where you register to be a federal contractor. But if you go to SAM.gov, they're going to show you, if you do a search into the NAICS codes, that there's about 25,000 registered federal contractors. Now look, there are no licenses. I can't say this enough. I personally have done hundreds of millions of dollars worth of federal government construction contracts. I have never had a license other than a driver's license. There is no office like, in state, you can go get a state contractor's license. In federal, you can't tell me where that is because it doesn't exist. You just have to be registered with SAM.gov. I call that the barrier to entry. It's kind of complicated, and a lot of people try to muddle through it, but they don't quite make it. You can make mistakes. We do have people on our team here that can take care of that for you. But regardless, that's all it takes to be a national federal contractor, is being registered with SAM.gov. So what's the budget? We, the people, approve Congress to set the budget for the United States, and Congress approves money to take care of the construction goods and services that our federal government needs. As an example, you've got all these agencies. You've got the National Park Service, the National Forest Service, the Bureau of Land Management, the Bureau of Indian Affairs, the IRS, the post offices, the Army, Navy, Coast Guard, Air Force. Even the Environmental Protection Agency owns 11,000 buildings across the United States. So among all these 500 agencies, there's about 1 million buildings across the United States, and Congress sets the budget on how to maintain the construction goods and services for all these buildings. And that budget is a public information, and it just happens to be about $270 billion a year. But when we were looking at that number, we thought it was kind of an interesting number in the sense that there's 365 days in the year. But if you take out the weekends and take out the holidays, that number is around 270 work days. Well, when you divide that out, it's 1 billion every work day. Now, it's not that our government is issuing $1 billion worth of contracts every work day. It's that they're putting out on the street $1 billion worth of opportunities every workday. And I mean, this number is so interesting to me because, I'm the government construction experts. I've got clients all over the country, and my largest client does about, let's say, $30 to $40 million a year in federal contracts. My biggest client does this is $1 billion a day in opportunities. The room for growth in this market is simply unbelievable. But when you take 1 million contractors going after $600 billion, look, when there's more competition, the price goes down. When there's less competition, the price goes up. And what you guys are experiencing out there, and I didn't talk about this in the first video that I did, but what you guys are experiencing out there is an economy issue. Look, I'm not an economist. I'm not Alan Green's fan. I'm just a guy that's done between my dad and I, we've done 1,000 federal contracts that generated $1 billion in revenue. So, I'm a construction guy. I mean, I started this business, out in the field as a superintendent, working across the country, job by job by job. But I've always been a federal contractor. But here's what happens in the economy. It goes like this. It's constantly moving. And what contractors experience is all of a sudden, they don't have an explanation as to why, but all of a sudden the phone starts ringing and people are calling in saying, hey, give me a bid, right? And so if that phone starts ringing more and more and more, what do you do with your price? Hey, I'm busy. If you really want me out there, it's going to cost more money. So what you're noticing is that the economy is going up. But then all of a sudden, man, you feel special, right? Everything's going right. But what's happening, remember I said that 600 billion, that's the slice of the pie, that's the meat on the bones, that's, the opportunity. But what happens is the economy starts to go down, and you can't control it. And when it's happening, you can't quite put your finger on it, right? Well, if you look at all these ups and downs over time, the biggest down that our country has ever had was in 1929. The stock market crashed, and we had the result was the Great Depression. This was 1929-ish. The president was FDR, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, and how did he save our economy? Well, he made a deal with Congress to get public funds to go out and build roads, bridges, and dams, infrastructure across the United States. It was called the New Deal. So he goes, but what was interesting about the New Deal was it was the first time in our country that the president, or our government, let's just say our government, decided that construction in our infrastructure is not a cost. In other words, as the roads, bridges, and dams are being built, the value of our country is going up, and that's how he settled the books. That had never been done before. That saved our country, put America back to work again. But it was federal government construction. Now, fast forward to our last recession, okay, 2008, 2009, and who was president? Obama. Okay, so Obama comes out and he issued an act of Congress, the American Reinvestment and Recovery Act. And that was $150 billion. In fact, that's how GCExperts actually started, because my brother was in a boating accident, and I'll clip that in here, but he was in a boating accident and had a golf ball-sized portion of his brain removed.
Into the side of him, and I was paralyzed.
That impact on a Texas lake 2 years ago crushed Ryan Reitmeyer's skull. His prognosis for survival, grim.
He was not recognizable. He had taken the full impact of an accident. I looked at the doctor.
My dad and I were doing $20 to $40 million a year worth of federal government construction when that happened, with a team of 6 people. That was 2005. And then we left the construction industry to focus on his recovery for 5 years, but that puts you into 2009, 2010. You got this recession. So our local newspaper had written an article that said the construction industry had gone to shit. And my dad wrote that, the woman that wrote the article back and said, hey, maybe the commercial and residential construction industry had gone to shit, but the federal market's booming because Obama just issued the American Reinvestment and Recovery Act, the $150 billion. The problem was 25,000 registered federal contractors couldn't do $150 billion worth of work. So a bunch of that money went unspent, but it was set aside and allocated for federal construction. And she wrote back and said, would you write an article about it? Well, back in the day, there was this movie, Show Me the Money. So my dad writes this article, Show Me the Money. And it's about the opportunity in the federal market. Well, that article got published, but then it got picked up by a magazine, a national magazine called Commercial Construction Renovation Magazine. Well, there was a guy up in Dallas named Jacob Krall, and Jacob Krall, he read that article and contacted my dad and I, asked us if we would speak in front of his group of 110 roofing and renovation contractors. There's 110 guys in there. So anyway, we decided to go up to Dallas. We give this speech, and that's kind of where everything changed, because I don't know about you and your parents or people that are mentors in your life, but every once in a while they say something and you go, well, where did that come from? So my dad's up there giving this speech about the opportunity in the federal market to this group of 110 guys, and at the end of it he says, now it's 110 guys, he says, I'll take 20 guys into a room, 2 people per company, 10 companies, and for $10,000 a piece, I'll teach all of you guys everything that you need to know to be successful in the construction market. Well, geez, we got bum rushed off the stage, and all of a sudden we sell $100,000 worth of tickets to a workshop that doesn't exist. So, you know, we're a couple smart guys and we'll figure it out. But that was, I'll get to that more later, but that was kind of the genesis. We didn't just wake up one day and say, we're the government construction experts. Anyway, so that happened. Now, this all started with the ARRA money. We'll flash forward 10, 15 years later, and we're in a recession again. And so the President, Biden, issues the Infrastructure Act. Okay, these are acts of Congress. But what's happening is the smart contractors out there, they're riding these waves, and then when the economy starts to downturn, they're splitting off into federal contracts. Then they're taking a federal contract, then they're hitting over here and swinging over to the next one. But they're also riding these waves up as the economy's moving. And so as the economy goes down, they just split off. Look, the biggest successful contractors in the world all have the United States federal government as a client. And it's not that hard to do. You just get SAM registered. We SAM register companies here all the time. Okay, so that's kind of the opportunity. This is kind of the economy that's happening in that. And then let's talk about how we being the government construction experts, how we saw for all of this. So again, the government construction experts, we didn't just become the experts overnight. There was this accident with my brother, and the article gets written, it gets nationally published. Jacob Krall sees this thing, and then Jacob Krall's guys that were in that room knew this other guy, Anthony Del Medico, and Anthony Del Medico asks us to go speak on stage in Florida, and next thing you know, we're speaking on stage and having all these discussions across the United States about the opportunity in the federal market. Well, then guys start coming down into our training, and what that looked like when guys came into our training was something like this.
And then put the BIG over the opportunities. Big problems equal big opportunities. If somebody needs something and they really need it, they're desperate to get it done, you understand that's the opportunity you're looking for, the need. Okay? You focus on the need. Everything gets focused on the need. What's the need? Do you have a budget? Once I understand the need, I focus on it, I understand it, repeat it back to them. Is there anything else you want to elaborate?
And so over a decade, on the other side of this whiteboard is where we were training all these guys. They were coming in, and it's not that I knew that the pandemic was going to happen. What happened was we're bringing guys in over the years, and I started to think it was cool. Like, maybe I should video record this, that we're bringing all these people all from around the country, and we're teaching them how to become federal contractors. So I'm recording all this stuff, and then all of a sudden the pandemic hits. Well, I just went back to the recordings from the live workshops that we were doing, and I edited them together, and what you just saw was a clip of what I've edited together. That was a clip from day 1. Here's a clip from day 2.
Know that I didn't finish this sentence for you. Seth calls me up and says, what do I do? And I told him one of 2 things are going to happen. I said, number 1, you're going to get 100% of your contract amount with 0% complete without doing any of the work. I told him that up front. Don't you just love what I can say to people? Okay, 2. Or you're going to get a big fat change order.
Day 3.
Do you remember me saying that the rule was if there's only one bidder and that bidder is 15% or more above the government estimate, they cannot award the contract? Why does our government, in their infinite wisdom, have that rule?
Protects tax dollars money.
Protects tax dollars, right? Because Sally, what's she trying to do? Get George's job done. He needs it. It's his.
Now look, if you're one of the guys that comes into our training to become a national federal contractor, I know your company name. And so over the years, I've been kind of putting together a little list of the company names. And of course, if you go through my training, I get a testimonial from you. Hey, how was the training? So let's kind of look at what that looks like. So on my website, I've got a proof page, GCExperts.com/proof. But the general idea here is that here's a video of a guy saying, hey, you guys are awesome. What's his name? Well, that's Dennis of AMG. What's his shirt say? AMG. But I take this picture of his public profile at USAspending.gov. In other words, he got our training, he went and got contracts. But don't take my word for it, this picture's on my website. Go to the actual USAspending.gov website and look up AMG Construction. And you can see that since my picture was taken on my website, he's actually gotten $4.2 million in contracts. And what that means is when I took this picture, it was 4.1, but since then, he's gotten more contracts. But what's really cool is you compare the dates that he's gotten these federal contracts. In other words, he came to our class in 2014, he started getting federal contracts. And he's already gotten $100,000 more in contracts since I took that photo of this page. But you just go down the line, you go, Andy of NBT, he says awesome things about our training, and then here's his contract awards, and you can verify that I'm not lying to you. In other words, I call this my indisputable proof page because it's clear I'm not, this is a public source. These are guys saying amazing things about us. You know, as an example, Kevin, in this video, he says, I came to the workshop a year ago. Well, what happened after that year? He got 1.6 million contracts. How do you prove that? You click on the indisputable proof page, the link to USAspending.gov, and you can see a year ago, he started getting federal contracts. And he's already gotten some going into 2019. So look, you know, you're talking to a guy between my dad and I, we've done $1 billion worth of work, and we've put together this class that we teach contractors from any trade. As long as you're in the construction industry, we teach you how to go out and get federal contracts. So where do you find them? Well, a lot of federal contracts are posted on SAM.gov. But if you go in there, it's almost like a dead end. It's hard to find jobs on SAM.gov. It's a government website, okay? So we invented something called BidTracker. We invested $250,000 creating our own system to find federal contracts. That's how bad we think SAM.gov is. We're not fans of SAM.gov around here. So what does that look like? It's BidTracker. We invented it. And what it is 50 government contract solicitations per page. So if I scroll down here, these are all active federal solicitations is the word that we use for them. And all you do is you come in here and you click sync on jobs you're interested in. You just go, okay, I want to take a next step. I'll just sync that job. So this is my invention. And it's, right now we got 13 pages, so 50 per page. You got over 500 jobs here. BidTracker is always a consistent and constant 30-day look ahead. And so there's over 500 opportunities right here. And you just come in, I'll go to page 3 and you just click sync on jobs you're interested in. So sync. And then what's happening in the background is BidTracker is syncing the jobs, the files for the jobs, the bid files. So what's that look like? You open up your file directory, and you can see it's already started to sync some jobs that are due on March 10. I'm filming this on March 8 or 9 or something. But you can see it just now synced the jobs on the next page that I clicked, 315. But anyway, these are the jobs that I clicked sync on. And when you go inside the folders, you've got the files that, whether it's, pictures that they give you of the job site or the scope of work or the solicitation document. Look, it's all the files that you need to be looking at in order to bid a federal job. So, look, personalities are all different, and I may or may not be the guy that you want to help you move into the federal market. But if you click the Learn More button, that'll bring up a little thing. You can put your name and email address and phone number in there. We'll never call you unsolicited. Whenever you have a conversation with me, you're never going to hear, if you buy now. When I do these Zoom calls, it's just two guys in the construction industry having a conversation about the federal market. And then you guys, the audience, get to decide if I'm full of shit or not. And that's really the way that this whole thing should operate. So contact me with the Learn More button. That'll start a few emails that show you kind of some of the things that we've done over the years in the federal market that we can teach you how to do. Otherwise, thanks for making it to the end of the video. Have a good one.